Welcome to Conversations with Benebrith International. I'm CEO Dan Mariaschin. Thank you for spending some time with us today. In the midst of a pandemic or any seismic event, it's easy to forget the essential frontline workers who serve for the well-being of others. As part of our Center for Senior Services, we sponsor 38 Benebrith senior housing properties. Each building has a variety of critical staff members, including staff coordinators who provide vital social services for the residents. We're joined today by two of our service coordinators who are tremendous assets to Benebrith's housing network. Jennifer Leffler of the Benebrith Apartments in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and Teresa Wachala of the Benebrith Covenant House of Tucson 1 and Tucson 2 in Tucson, Arizona. In our conversation, Jennifer and Teresa will talk about their incredible work during the COVID-19 pandemic and the benefits of being part of the Benebrith housing network. Jennifer and Teresa, we really appreciate your spending time with us today. So let's jump right into the questions. This question is for each of you. Can you talk about your roles and responsibilities in the buildings that you work in and what a typical day looks like, if there is such a thing as a typical day? In other words, what is a service coordinator and why is the work that you do invaluable to the residents in Benebrith buildings? Let's start with you, Jennifer, and then Teresa.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. I've been a service coordinator for about 10 years and I have many different hats, like many jobs. So it's, case management as needed. Basically, I'm a resource for my office, for the office staff, for my residents, for community organizations, but mostly for my residents. And the main goal is to help my residents acquire supportive services and, schedule programs, educational programs, and programs to help combat social isolation, to help them age in place here as happily and as safely as possible.
Great. And Teresa?
Basically, yes, the same thing. I consider myself mostly a resource person. I help our residents with benefits, continue to help them age in place. I educate as much as possible. I always tell them I do just about everything management doesn't do. So yes, Jennifer's right. We wear a lot of different hats. We do the newsletters. We do all kinds of things to keep in communication.
And have you found since COVID, and we'll get into this a little more deeply in a bit, but have you found since COVID that the requests that you're getting, the needs that are being created, have kind of created a new category of service to the residents?
Yeah, definitely. There is, it's more so the resources that they're requesting. Like we can still perform most of the same services, it's just modified, as opposed to them being in our office with us. My office is small, so we request, if they need help with an application, we just get all the paperwork together, and then I will do it, and they'll come pick it up, or communication along those lines. But they've been requesting more things like meal deliveries, or grocery shopping delivery. That's something that they never requested before. I mean, I know some people did it, but now it was a much bigger request, especially at the beginning of the pandemic. It's died off a little bit, but yeah, just the types of services that they've been requesting, but everything else is just modified.
Teresa, how about you?
Yes, I would agree with all of that. Everything has been modified. Also, I've found that during this pandemic, there have been a lot of the CARES Act created a lot of COVID funds. So as far as the shopping goes, because I didn't have nearly as many people asking about shopping services, there are several agencies here in Tucson that got COVID funds, and they increased that shopping for everybody and made it a lot easier to do that. As well as some of the meals programs it's created. So that has been kind of a bit of a shift, but Jennifer is also correct as far as our paperwork, been doing everything over the phone, which makes it a little more challenging, but trying to still help them with their benefits and anything that I can.
So when the pandemic first hit in March, how did your buildings and the residents adapt to the changes? That was really, I mean, it hit all of us in terms of shutdowns, lockdowns, and all that came with that. So at that particular point, how did the buildings and residents adapt? Teresa?
Well, it was a little difficult at first. Most people, because of not knowing exactly what the pandemic was, were very willing to isolate and stay indoors and just kind of change their way of living, basically. And then they kind of, I've just tried to stay in touch, especially with those people that don't have a lot of support, just trying to do phone calls, stay in touch with everybody. But for the most part, most people in our building have adapted quite well. Luckily, a lot of them had family members or other support, whether it was caregivers. So that really helped. And then I felt like I was more of a supplement to that. And then also I made sure trying to keep people as engaged as possible. Besides the newsletter, sending out flyers with good information like the warm line, anything people can do to just reach out, because it did get to be difficult with people being so isolated after several months.
Jennifer?
It's really nice to hear Teresa say all of that, because we're basically across the country from each other and we do similar things. And it's really nice to have that camaraderie. And I don't know, I just really like hearing it. But we've done something really similar. Same thing as Teresa. We have 273 apartments, 293 tenants currently. So we reach out to those who we know don't have support, or who we know are in a situation, or who might be more prone to, depression with social isolation, or, that kind of thing. But we do the same thing. We reached out as much as we could. We still do. Our buildings, we closed everything down. Being in Pennsylvania, we had 3 phases. We followed our state's guidelines. Staff continued to come into work the entire time, but we closed our offices completely. My management was wonderful. They got me a Dutch door, which is wonderful. So because I really did not like not seeing my residents, we did do a lot by phone, but so I have a Dutch door and I have plexiglass now around my desk. So residents can come in and see me and say hi, and they can ask questions that way as opposed to just on the phone. So that was a nice adjustment. That was really lovely. But our residents were really open to whatever we asked. We followed some of what other Benebrith buildings did, that we learned on the Zoom calls that, Janelle and Evan hosted, or still host. And we made like flyers saying, we come into work for you, please stay home for us. And we put pictures and we made it like fun. But we, just like Teresa, we communicate as much as we can. I've been gathering emails from my tenants, or my residents and their families if they want an email. I'll send out emails regularly. I have do paper newsletters for those who are not electronically inclined. I put paper resources on my resource table, which is right outside my office. We put flyers on, flyers on doors. We just reach out as much as we can to make sure that our residents are engaged, and if to see if there's anything that we can do to help.
Well, I think it's important to say at this point that what we're talking about here these are not nursing homes. This is different, and residents are normally free to come and go. I want to talk about so much of your roles involve socializing with residents. What aspects do you think have permanently changed, and what could be just a phase? Teresa.
Well, it has been, like I said, there's been a lot of new programs that have started because of this, which has been somewhat of a challenge. At first, it's kind of like what Jennifer was saying. It was kind of in phases. And as we realized things were getting a little bit better, we started doing, I still was running the food bank program, so people still had to come downstairs, get their food boxes, but I did it very, very carefully, mask and gloves. Only had one other volunteer who would mark their names off. I would just hand them their food box and they would leave. So we did it very quickly, everybody social distancing, same thing with meals. A lot of our board members wanted to stay as involved as they could, and early on they did a really cute little thank you basket that they are bag with various things in it, and a really nice note, just letting everybody know that they're still here for them as well. So it has been challenging, and things have really been different, but we are trying to do as much as we can still. And between the food boxes, since I have almost half the people, we have 120, about 121 residents here. So much smaller than Jennifer's, but yes, we try to, that way, that's kind of my way of checking up on them when they come down for their boxes or if they come down for a meal. So that's been really nice.
And Jennifer?
Well, I'm hoping that, Abiel, it was a phase that I can't have people in my office. I'm really looking forward to when I can have them in again, because it's not only easier to help and to, complete the paperwork and, sometimes if you have to pass the phone back and forth, that kind of thing. So I'm really hoping that's the phase. But like Teresa, we do food boxes from our food bank. That completely switched. We used to have everybody come down, but because we have a bigger population, it just wasn't safe. even if we asked people to come down, and stagnantly, it still it wouldn't have been safe. So we currently deliver food boxes to their door once a month. That's currently there's 73 that we're delivering. Also, all staff pitches in, which is wonderful. And I'm hoping that'll remain permanent, because I think that's just a better system. So I think that was a silver lining. And then we also have a Congregate meal program. Now, I do think it's beneficial that, people were able to come down to one of our community rooms and eat together. But that's currently, we deliver 5 frozen meals as funded by our county area agency on aging. But we deliver that to the meal, we deliver that to our residents once a week. And that's probably going to be a phase, but our residents are actually really enjoying that. So I might negotiate with the county a little bit and see if we can do like a hybrid thing. But I think most of this will hopefully be a phase, because what we do and the modifications we've had to make, we happily do so. But I think it's not, I don't think it's a wonderful thing for the residents to have to modify as well, if we can get to the point where we don't need to. So I'm hoping, we can have a lot more in-person interaction.
Well, once the national emergency was declared in mid-March, CSS staff began holding weekly Zoom meetings, I think it was referenced earlier, that provide training and updates from CSS staff experts, as well as a chance for network members to ask questions and share best practices. We're talking about 38 properties around the United States. Additionally, all of our training transitioned to a virtual format. How has being part of the Benebrith network been a benefit, particularly now, but also pre-COVID? Jennifer, you want to start?
Sure. I've, like I said, I've been doing this for about 10 years, and I have gone to as many conferences as I've been able to. And so pre-COVID, I really enjoy getting together with everybody. Janelle always made them fun. And, this staff always did a wonderful job. But it was really nice to see everybody and, swap stories, and, share best practices and share conflict resolutions. And just kind of, just in general, just to know you're in the same boat and you're going through the same things. And then, COVID, post-COVID, honestly, or like during COVID, it's been incredibly helpful to have the Zoom calls. It's helped with stress, at least for me personally, just to know that there are others out there who are going through the same thing, and that who are there to support us, because everyone offers suggestions and everyone's really kind, and it's incredibly helpful. And I tell this to my residents all the time too, that they think I know everything, which is really lovely, but it's not true. You can be doing it for a long time, but I learn new things all the time through the network and through the Zoom calls, and I use them. I just printed out a bunch of stuff that I just got from the website. So it's been incredibly helpful just to have a sounding board, and to have a support network, and I'm incredibly grateful for it.
Yeah, and Teresa, how do you see it?
Jennifer pretty much said it all. It has been a great support. I've been here for 11 years myself, and yes, I do miss our conferences, but at the same time, it's really nice to be able to see people, to connect. And basically, as Jennifer said, it's a great sounding board. It's really good to know that we're all going through some similar things. And the support has just been wonderful. And yes, we've gotten great information from them to use on anything from the scams that are going on right now to other best practices, and everybody sharing that always makes your job a lot easier.
Well, one of the things that I think about when I think of our residents is the issue of social isolation. The idea, first of all, that they are isolated from each other. And then there's also the issue of families and how important that is to seniors to get those visits, to have that contact, that face-to-face contact. And, I think of all of these, film clips that we've seen on TV, and I'm sure you have it firsthand, where you see folks going up to windows and trying to communicate through windows. And it's touching, but it's a serious problem. So social isolation, I'm sure, can be a problem in our buildings, even in the best of times. But given the pandemic, how have you and the staff in general worked to combat this problem among your residents? And let's dig a little bit deeper into that. Although the residents have to stay physically distant from staff and each other, what have your buildings done to ensure that your residents don't stay socially isolated as much as you can and to the extent that you can? In particular, as we approach winter and there is less opportunity to physically distance outside, that's true for all of us, which the CDC recommends as a much safer gathering than being inside. How concerned are you that social isolation could possibly worsen, and what are you doing to prepare for those likely scenarios? Teresa, you want to start on that one?
Well, I do know social isolation is really difficult for some of the people. We do have some people that don't have caregivers. They rely on at least one family member to bring them things if they need it. So we just try to make sure everybody's safe and as careful as possible. And luckily here in Arizona, I mean, it's been a really brutal summer and it's been really hot. So now we're just getting cool enough. So here we're lucky that even in our wintertime, our temps are usually staying in the 70s, 60s. So during the day, it is a lot easier for people to go out and distance and even go out on our patio and have, maybe a short visit with family members. So it is difficult. It's a really difficult situation. Again, mostly trying to stay in touch with people. I have residents that call me just to say hello. I've let them know that all staff, anytime you need to talk about anything, please call us. Again, also giving out other information, third-party information, the warm line, mental health lines, things like that, just to see what they can do and making sure that they have something to entertain them. The public has been wonderful. They have donated adult coloring books and pencils and things like that, yarn for those that crochet or knit. So just trying to get them and make sure that they have something, some kind of hobby, something that they enjoy doing while they are so isolated. And they're just making sure that they know that the whole staff is here for them.
Well, Jennifer, you're in the mid-Atlantic states, and we're not too far from where you are. We're in Washington, D.C., and the evenings are getting much colder and the days are getting cooler. How are you dealing with this issue as winter is now almost upon us?
So currently, we are offering activities and not all in programs, but we are limiting numbers. We are making sure that everyone is 6 feet apart, and we require masks in everything that we do. So currently, we are offering Tai Chi classes, both sitting and standing. Something we call Happy Feet, which is a little bit like silver sneakers. And then also, and we currently have our gym closed, so that kind of supplements from people wanting to be active who can't go outside or who choose not to go outside. We also offer painting classes monthly, and we do pop-up events. We've been doing that since the beginning of the pandemic, where people will come down intermittently. We'll do it over a couple hours, and it's actually been successful. We haven't had crowds, which has been great. we did like an ice cream sandwich during the summer. We have one scheduled for the winter holidays as well, where we're going. We should also show movies. We're holding a whole day. We're just showing all sorts of holiday movies. We're serving cookies and milk. Um, so we're trying to plan for stuff like that, where people can come down intermittently. But we are really strict about our mask rule. Multiple times a day. I'm like, put your mask up over your nose. Just as a reminder. And people are wonderful about it. They really are. Nobody fights us on it. We just like Teresa was saying, we still, all the outreach, we continue that. We do plan to continue that into the winter. I just had a resident this morning right before this call, who illustrated this point exactly. She was just like, I'm just so tired of this, and she was, and all this, and she even used isolation. She's like, I feel so isolated. And she has a dog as well. And I know, pets, and pets can help with that, but still, she was feeling really isolated. So, somebody like that, I would reach out to a lot more. And we provide coloring pages on our resource table. And I'll take any suggestions from our residents. I always encourage them to call me or come to my Dutch door. I call it my Mr. Ed door. Come see me, and give me suggestions. Or I also make it a point whenever people do come down and say hi to me, just like Teresa, they, just call to say hi, come down to say hi. I'm like, it's so nice to see you. Please come down again soon. We just really try to provide support in all aspects, and our office staff is really wonderful as well. They do the same thing. They make it a point to say, it's so nice to see you today. How are you? They ask about, how's your family? Sorry about that. So we really do, and we provide the just like Teresa was saying, the warm line resources. That's all out on my resource table, and I always reiterate during my my newsletter emails and the newsletters we put on clips and stuff like that. So,
are you finding that more families are having Zoom meetings? In other words, the folks who do have computers or iPads, that this has increasingly become the way for folks to stay in touch with their children and grandchildren?
Yeah, we don't have as many people here that have their own technology. However, the people that do, I've heard them say that they do Zoom meetings. They've been doing that with their doctor, with family members, especially if their family members are in another state. And that makes them feel a little bit more connected. And some people know how to just do it on their phone. They've got different FaceTime apps. We don't have quite as many, but the ones that do, that's how they're feeling more comfortable and staying in more and being very careful. So that
Jennifer, are you seeing more of that for those who do have the technology?
I don't think so, unfortunately. Actually, I printed off the guide from CSS's website explaining how to do Zoom and to use electronic forms of communication. People took it, but I have found, that a lot of my residents are not tech savvy, and that's okay. And even when we offer opportunities, it's more like, no, thank you. But I think those who have it, I think that I still don't think Zoom is a thing. I've encouraged it, but I even considered doing Zoom bingo, but I didn't get much of a response. So I don't think that because they love bingo. So, I don't think that they're communicating via that, with their families, even though we encourage it. We think it's a great thing. And I'm like, I promise it's easy, but, what will be easy, my view on being easy, there's a learning curve for everything. So, unfortunately not. I keep encouraging it, and I will continue to print out those CSS resources, but unfortunately not.
Well, how differently do you think about your job now that we've been in this for 9 months? Is it a matter of simply putting your head down and taking it one day at a time? I know we've settled into this. And now, with the news in the last couple of weeks about vaccines, we've had an opportunity to be somewhat encouraged. But this is going to be a long slog. It has been, and it could be for a while. So how do you see this in terms of your job and taking it one day at a time? Is that how you do it, Teresa?
Yes, that's exactly how I do it. I've always been kind of a go with the flow kind of person. I usually had an open door policy. People would pop in. So those things have changed quite a bit. But yes, you do just have to take it one day at a time, because people are always asking, when is this going to be over? And we really have no pat answer for that. So it has been difficult at times, trying to explain to people why we're taking these precautions. Most people are very supportive of it, but we have a few that kind of fight against it, and that makes it a little more difficult at times. But we're just trying to keep everybody safe, and we just keep reminding them of that. And yes, it has been kind of a difficult transition. And the other thing, we're trying to figure out some of the new programs that have been started because of all this. We don't know if they're going to run out of funding at the end of the year, or if one of them I just found out is going to continue somehow. It's fresh vegetables that come from the food bank, which has been really nice. So we're just trying to see how things go. We're going to slowly start doing different things, like in the wellness center, maybe doing some one-on-ones, because we have a big area out there where our wellness director can do that. So just anything to keep them engaged. And like I said, we're just here. I'm very, very grateful, first of all, for being able to be here every day, but also being here for my residents.
Jennifer?
I'm gonna mute that. Sorry, my phone keeps ringing and I thought I took it off. But same thing as Teresa. I've always had an open door policy. I had a rough time with the door being closed. Like I said, I didn't like seeing my residents. I think most service coordinators feel that way. We thrive on that, and the residents thrive on seeing us. But once I got my Mr. Ed door, I've really, my job has become a lot, not easier necessarily, but a lot more enjoyable. Like, I always love what I do. But coming in, having my door closed, and not necessarily getting the interaction, but people don't call you as much, you know what I mean? So it's more so like if they're passing by, because my office is located right in our community room. So when they're passing by, I have more opportunity to like call out to people and say, hey, on people who might not have called us before. And like I said, we reach out to people, or I reach out to people. But it's just really nice being able to see people and communicate. It's just so much more communication with our door being halfway open, but yeah, one day at a time, doing everything that we can do to, again, help our residents age in place and really enjoy living here, and being part of this community, because, as staff, we're part of this community as well. And we just want to make this, we love what we do. Our staff we all have a history of being here for a long time. So we want our residents to love being here, as much as we do, even if not more. So, we just want to continue with our programming, and, it might ebb and flow, considering with the numbers and with our state guidelines and how we do things. We might have to, stop things for a little bit, but then hopefully we can engage our residents in another way, or reach out in a different way, or just provide more and more resources, and just kind of learn as we go, because we've never gone through anything like this, nor have they. So doing the best that we can, and always taking suggestions. I always, through CSS, but also my residents, I'm like, let me know what you need, because that's what I'm here for, and I would love to help you.
Well, it's true. I mean, we're all in this. I mean, we're learning, all of us are learning day to day. I have one final question, and Teresa, you referenced the food bank. How have you both continued to engage with your community partners during the pandemic, and which partnerships have proved to be the most beneficial?
Again, the food bank has probably been the most beneficial, because I know they had to change things at most of their sites as to how they distribute. And for me, because of logistics and because of the way our building is set up, it was easier to just start calling people down. And I just call one or two people down at a time so they could still distance, for them to come and pick it up. And like I said, they have developed other programs as well. They still have what they call the trade mitigation. So we get extra things from the food bank, including like frozen meats and sometimes fresh milk and eggs, which is always really nice to supplement that. And then they went ahead and partnered with another place that was buying. They used to get their vegetables bought. It was local farmers, and they were being bought by restaurants. And because of COVID, they weren't able to sell to the restaurants as much. So that's why they started the program through the food bank, and now they're bringing fresh vegetables from local farmers. So a lot of our partnerships are still the same, but yet they've changed in so many ways. And we've had Jewish Family and Children's Services started a shopping service open to the public, and they've been great because they'll go to just about any store. A lot of them and our local area agency on aging, because of the COVID funds, they were actually able to help pay for some groceries, at least $50 a month. Some of the programs would pay 100% if you needed that. So they've been really great. I'd say, if anything, our partners have been even more supportive. And luckily, because of those funds, they were able to really step up and help even more.
Well, that's great. It's important. Jennifer?
Actually, same thing. Food Bank has been one of our biggest supporters. They've worked with us in the changes that we requested. I have a specific contact there, and he's wonderful. Anything I ask for or anything I suggest, he's really open to. He just works with us, which is great. I think we have like a mutually beneficial relationship. So, it's just been really wonderful. We have a senior life program here. I know it's called something different in the rest of the country. Pennsylvania has to be silly about some things. But she used to come in every month and host a bingo, but also do educational things. And she just dropped off snacks for all of our residents. We've had, the county has really been helpful with working with us. They'll switch to the in-person meals to basically overnight doing frozen meals, which is a huge thing for them, was really wonderful. And, they work with us as well because we're a little bit different than we're considered a senior center, but we're a little bit different. So they work with us as well. We're pretty self-contained here when it comes to services. So we're lucky in that aspect. So those are our biggest partners in the community. But we've had a church reach out to us to, provide meals. My goodness. And which has been great. It's just been, we're in a really great area where people just want to help. And we are always open to that. And we're grateful that the community wants to help, the senior members of it. It's just really nice to be here and so we're very happy.
Well, Jennifer, Teresa, thank you for everything you do on the front lines and for making sure the residents of our senior housing buildings are in the best hands possible. We can see that just by our discussion today. When the pandemic is behind us, we're going to be in a better place because of people like you who support more vulnerable groups of people through thick and thin. So we thank you for all of that. Well, huge thanks to Jennifer Leffler and Teresa Wachala, two of our extraordinary senior housing service coordinators, for joining me today. And thank you for tuning in to this conversation with Benebrith. If you like what you've heard, make sure you never miss a program by subscribing to the Benebrith YouTube channel and liking us on Facebook. And be sure you visit our website, benebrith.org, to learn more about our important work. See you again soon. Take care, everyone.